I think it is more prevalent in Australia and New Zealand, like from what I read, what it said was because Australia and New Zealand, like the cultures are very much about like equality. They value hard work.
Yeah, these are the things that I would then now at this age take a moment to think back and say, oh, hold on, I shouldn't be doing that.
Obviously, for brown parents, academics is huge, So when
Yeah.
I would like win all these prizes or come first in class or
Yeah.
something, like it was such a big deal. And then my parents would, tell my brothers, oh, you should like work as hard as she did.
We love our culture. There's so many great things that's been gifted to us because of our culture, but at the same time, the parental bond with their children is a bit of a tricky situation or a tricky thing in our culture because
We get compared to like our cousins or like our neighbors or
Oh.
all this like rubbish in the brown community.
Yeah.
When it's just you don't understand that not every single person is going to be the same. I was like, for your information, she's a child. Let her be a child.
Exactly, she's 5.
I know.
Like,
And then I deleted it. I was like, you know what? I can't do it.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we record and you listen. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. May we continue to learn, share, and grow together.
hello everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode of Brown Girls Down Under. I'm Deshani, one of your hosts, joining in from South Australia, and I've got Shanali with me.
Hi everyone. Thank you for all your support during the last few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know, what episode are we on now? 6 or 7? Or?
I think it's 7 now. Look at us, we
I
act
know.
like we don't even
We're
remember.
Like so famous, we've forgotten.
So professional. Like we've done like 120 episodes or something.
But it feels like
but no,
that.
it's been it does. But it feels like a lifetime. But it's been so fun. I think the response and the feedback has been really good and really positive, and we appreciate everyone. Because it's like 1 hour, 1.5 hours sometimes, but it's not something it's not something you listen to unless you really can enjoy it. So we really
True.
appreciate everyone
Yeah.
taking the time to tune in. But welcome back to another episode, and let's get to it. So how was your week, Shania?
Yeah, my week's been pretty standard. Just the usual. I've got 3 more weeks left of school before the holidays.
I feel like every time we start the podcast,
Honestly.
it's like a countdown.
It is a countdown. I'm counting down the seconds. But it was a good week. We had... we celebrated one of my students' birthdays on Thursday.
Aw.
And we had a little party. It was so cute. He was so excited for it. And, we had cake and some snack food. And I got him a little present. And he was so excited.
Do you have to make sure, like, do you have to consider how much sugar you're giving them? Because I realized I realized this when I came to came to Australia, because in Sri Lanka, parents aren't overly concerned about the sugar consumption of their kids at a very young age. At least my parents weren't. But then, like, I've had friends or like I've known people who have younger kids here, and they're very conscious about how much sugar their kids are having because they can get hyperactive.
Yeah.
So do you have to consider that?
It depends on the teacher, honestly. There is no like specific like hard and fast rule about it. I am personally quite like, I'm a bit anti-sugar a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm kind of turning into an almond mum. If you've seen. But like I prefer to have, fruits and like whole foods and
Of
nuts
course,
and
yeah.
things. Yeah. So, but then my buddy teacher is a complete opposite. She's like in the class next to me, and like we work very closely together. She's the complete opposite of me. She literally just snacks all day. She has so much sugar, chocolate. All her kids have chocolate. Like it's very normal.
Wow.
But I try to like minimize that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a lot of my kids don't come from very wealthy backgrounds. So basically all the food they even bring in is just like snacky food, like, lots of sugar. So
Yeah.
obviously I can't control that. That is what their parents
Yeah.
give them. And that's what they know and what they prefer. So
Yeah.
like I kind of have to, I would have fruit, like for this specific kid I'm talking about, he has like a lot of like home issues, like issues at home, trauma, all that kind of thing. And all he eats is like Oreos and jam and toast. That's all he eats. So
Wow.
I try to offer, like I cut up a peach or a banana and an apple and I try to offer it to
Aw.
him. Or I pretend that I'm going to eat it, so that like I'm just like, oh, I'm going to eat your fruit if you don't eat it. And I try to kind of make it into a competition.
Oh,
So
right.
it worked a couple of times, but now I think he's caught on to my my trick. So he's just like, okay, you can eat it. I'm like, okay, great. That didn't work.
He's figured it out.
Yeah, he's figured it out. He's very smart. So yeah, that didn't work. But I'm fine. I'm like, me and my teacher aide, we're trying to do like cooking lessons where we make like smoothies, or we
Ooh.
bake something with veggies in it. Something, I'm like, you kids need to eat your vegetables.
Yeah. Do you enjoy smoothies?
I love smoothies. I do.
Really?
I'm a very smoothie girl.
Do you put your protein in it? And
I
then
did. That's the thing.
as
So
well?
I used to have smoothies for breakfast every single day with protein, but that's when I started breaking out. So then I kind of
Oh,
stopped
yeah,
it.
okay.
Yeah. But then now, like during summer, I would try to have it more because obviously it's hotter.
Yeah.
And like use other forms of protein, but it's not as good as whey protein, unfortunately. But yeah, I love smoothies.
I really want to get into smoothies, but I'm just not a big like beverage girl.
Oh,
I
okay.
because I don't know. I just really want to get into it because it's such a good way of getting the protein in
Exactly.
without it, tasting
Tasting
disgusting.
yucky. Yeah.
But I don't like drinking stuff. I just don't like the liquid consistency that much. So I
Really?
just
Okay.
yeah, but I really want to get into it because they look so fancy and pretty, and
And it,
it's a
like you
good
say,
way.
like you can get everything in. So usually when I make smoothies, I put in
Yeah.
like chia seeds, LSA powder, which is
Wow.
like linseed, sunflower seeds, almond seeds. I put butters in, like peanut butter or almond butter.
Yeah.
Like I just like load it
You
up
can
with
put
everything.
fruit. You can put spinach.
You can do anything.
Everything.
You can put put veggies, you can
Yeah.
put carrots, celery, everything. So I just like
Yeah.
load it up. But yeah, it's really good. You should just try it and see
Yeah,
a few
I
and see if you like
should.
it. Yeah.
Should get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, I can't make smoothies when I'm on site. So I'm just like,
Oh,
maybe I should get
true.
MJ into it. And then, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wanted to be. I just never got into it.
smoothie
But I
gal.
should. Yeah, exactly.
I just love how
Makes
we
sense.
diverted from like our week to sugar.
Yeah, you know
to
what?
sugary.
Get back to it. Yeah.
But yeah, like to wrap it up, my week was pretty chill.
Pretty
yeah, I
similar.
only went to gym 3 times this week, which I'm not very happy about. But
But
it's
hey,
okay.
3 days is better than
Better
none.
than none, I know. But my goal is
Exactly.
like 5 days, so it was a little bit,
I
further
remember
away
when
from
I
it.
used to do that. It does feel good. It does. But then it
Yeah.
also feels awful if you stop doing it.
That's
it's
the
just
thing.
so addictive.
Yeah, I know. So I need to go back to that. But yeah, it's okay. I'll do it next week. Yeah. How was your week anyway?
It's good. We started. I think we finished watching the live action series for the Avatar Airbender.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then we missed the series so much, so now we're rewatching the cartoon again. But it makes me think like it's not that I think the last time I watched this was like when I was in like uni first year or something. But now that I'm rewatching it, I feel like there's like so many wise things said in
Right.
that cartoon. But I'm just thinking, and it made me think like how like when you rewatch the same things in different parts
Stages
of your life, you
Yeah.
and then when you're at different stages of your life, you just grasp things differently and you
Absolutely.
think about things differently.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it makes me think like there's so many like, and it's like a really like if I ever have kids, that's the type of cartoon I would make my kids watch because there's so many things about being like so many things about empathy and forgiveness, being compassionate, and yeah, it's just like so wise. And I feel like I don't remember thinking about
Feeling
these things when I
that,
was watching it for
yeah.
the first time. I was just like, oh, it's all about bending and all the action.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
it's
think
really
it's the
nice.
same with
And
like Friends, obviously you're a fan of
yeah,
Friends. I know that as well. But when we were
yes,
younger, when we watched it, we were just like, haha, so funny. But
yeah,
now I feel like we've kind of lived a little bit of their life as well, like moving overseas,
yeah,
like living
exactly.
alone, living with friends, all that. Like we can
Yeah,
kind of relate to it. And now watching it, like their
yeah.
problems just make sense now.
Exactly. And how, like, especially with Chandler, how he's like uses his humor as
Humor
his,
as a coping mechanism. Yeah.
mechanism. Exactly. And,
Yeah.
Monica and her
A cleaning
little,
obsession.
exactly. And you
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also like when you're away from family, like your friends are your family, right? And
True.
how close you tend to get with them. And it's a different kind of friendship because in like over here you pretty much spend a lot more time that you would have normally spent in Sri Lanka with your friends here because they're here to support you when you're moving a house. They're here to support you when you're having a function or a birthday party. It's different because it's not something it's different to something what you would have experienced back
Back
home.
home. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good, and we had a very chaotic morning this morning
Oh, tell me about
because
it.
we woke up, we had our morning tea, coffee, whatever, and then we packed up to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And we drive to the gym and we get out and we both realized that we didn't bring our gym tags. So we come back home. It like luckily it's not like our gym's not too far away from
Okay.
my house, but so we come back in, and then I remembered that I had like this gym, that tag they give with like a lanyard.
Yeah.
So that's what I had, but I remember I moved the tag from lanyard to my car key chain.
Right.
So I told MJ, I was like, this should be here, but it's not there. And then MJ's like, I didn't see that. And then we argued about how I think that he's moved my
Oh
tag
my God.
to some other thing because he has this thing with the keychain or something like that. And then I thought maybe it's in the other car key. So we have two set of car keys. And then we couldn't find the other set, the other
jeez.
pair. And then we were panicking. And then somehow he ended up having the car key in his work bag, but my gym tag wasn't there. And then so anyway, we were like, okay, fine, we'll have to get another gym tag. And then we drive back to the gym, and now we've accidentally left his gym tag at our home as well. And like, oh my god, there's no way I'm going back home. And then I went to the gym and I told her, look, so we didn't swipe our tags like we normally would. It was like we accidentally left his tag and I think I've lost my tag. And she's like, what's your name? I'm like, Deshani. And then she's like, oh, we have our tag. I think you just dropped it last week or something. I'm like, oh, thank God. But anyway,
What
we
a
spent like
chaotic
good
morning.
30-40 minutes going through the keychains.
That's
and all of
commitment.
that.
I feel like if that was me, I would be like, it's a sign. It's a sign. I'm not meant to go. I'm just gonna stay at home. Something bad's about to happen.
I don't know why I didn't do it, but that sounds like my normal self though to do that.
Good
But
on
yeah.
you changed. You changed person.
Yeah, so I had a good upper body day today, which
That's
is really
nice.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just been this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so moving on from our week, as your neighborhood true crime girly, I just wanted to talk. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing. This is like a very sad
Yeah.
case that
Exactly.
we both actually briefly discussed before we started the
Yeah.
episode. Just the murders that happened in Canada like a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And
Very shocking.
yeah, it hits very close to home, obviously, because it's a Sri Lankan family. And then the murderer
Yeah.
is also Sri Lankan. So those of you who don't know or who haven't been watching the news, a Sri
Yeah.
Lankan family of 6, was it? There were 4 kids, weren't there? Yeah, 4 kids.
4 kids and the parents, and I think there was another person
Yeah,
who
there
was
was a
living with
family
them. So
friend.
altogether 7.
Yeah, 7 people were stabbed. Out of that 6 were killed, including the 2 or 3 month old baby. And the father survived. So the father survived, and the person who did it was also a Sri Lankan
Yeah.
student, a 19-year-old.
10-year-old international student.
Yeah, who was living with them at the time. And it's
Yeah.
so tragic. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it that actually happened. It's just
Yeah.
so shocking. Like,
Yeah.
how
I don't think
depraved do you have to
there's-
be to do something like
Yeah.
that?
There's not much information available
that's the
regarding
thing.
this at the
Yeah.
moment, but yeah, and I remember I think some news this morning, like more news updates about it, and they were speaking about how quiet that neighborhood is and how it's like a suburb that something like this would never happen, and they just
And it's
Yeah,
so
it's so
sad,
tragic.
right? Like they were saying there are new migrants into the country.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, putting ourselves in that situation. Like, obviously when you move overseas, and especially
Yeah.
with kids, like, you have all these
I can't
hopes and
imagine.
dreams to
Yeah.
make your life better, to give your kids like a better life, for you to have a better life, and all these hopes and dreams. And then obviously they would have rented their basement
Yeah.
to this person, hoping, to maybe reduce costs or even to like help someone, which is very ingrained, I think, in the Sri Lankan culture.
Yeah.
Like, we're
It
all
is,
about
and
helping.
Yeah. And Canada's right now going through a big rental crisis
As is
market, or even
Australia.
like
Yeah.
real estate market, where everything's like so expensive,
Mm.
and obviously people are trying to survive while helping someone else. But yeah, it's heartbreaking and it's shocking. And I don't know the ins and outs of it, but yeah, and this is only gonna make things difficult for future migrants, for future international students as well. But yeah,
And it's such a black
heartbreaking.
mark against like our community as well. Like,
Yeah.
but the thing is, there could be so many reasons for this to happen, because for someone to do something so depraved and so heinous, you have to have either been like on some kind of crazy drug, like either that, or it's like some serious mental health issues.
The health condition.
And obviously this goes back to the discussion we had a couple of weeks ago, and that episode is out already, talking about mental health in the brown community. No one talks about these issues. No one talks about mental health. And maybe, I mean, this is me completely being an armchair detective guessing, because like you say, there's no information on it. But for someone to be so depraved, to do something so like terrible, like to murder children, you have to be
a 2-month-old baby.
Yeah, you have to be like on another level. So I'm thinking, like, from the limited information, and this is me making assumptions, like either he must have been like schizophrenic or like on some kind of drug, because there is no way. And the thing is, right, like from all the true crime I've read and watched and all that and listened to, he stabbed this family, and stabbing is very personal. Because the thing is, if you were to shoot someone, you can do it from a distance and you don't really see their face or, their expressions. You don't have to get in like close to them. Whereas stabbing, you are literally in their space. You need to get really close to someone to do that. So for you to do that, either you have some like crazy amount of anger with this person, or you are just on another level of depravity.
That's what I think, because you can't have that type of anger with a child, with a 2-month-old baby.
That's the thing.
And if you stab a 2-month-old baby, or like, and that doesn't affect you, I think, like you said, it has to be in some sort of drug where you're not aware of what you're doing, or I don't know, have to have like a serious mental health condition.
Because I was actually listening to like, I think I quoted Morbid the last episode, which is like my favorite true crime podcast, and I mentioned that they do these like true stories about what people have experienced. And yesterday I was listening to an episode where this girl said, or guy, I'm not sure who it was, but they wrote in this thing that happened in their family where his or her uncle was diagnosed as schizophrenic, and the doctor had told them, you need to put this person in mental health, like a facility where they're going to get the treatment that they deserve and that they need. But his mom was like, no, 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 I'll take him home. I can look after him. Like, I'll do it my way. Took him home. He was put in the basement. He was locked in the basement and not brought out, for any family functions. He didn't have any human connection, nothing. I don't know what she was planning on achieving here, but she basically made him really lonely and just away from everyone.
Yeah.
And then one day he just had like a complete breakdown. He killed every single person in the family. So this exact same way, stabbed every single person. So, and then when I saw this happen, I was like, wow, like maybe it's something similar to that, So it could be anything, but like this is us just making assumptions.
And and I think like going back to the episode where we spoke about mental health, I think it's also the reason why the awareness about mental health is so important is because not only to be able to ask for help and need help when you need that treatment, but also to deal with someone who's suffering from a mental health condition. That's why the awareness is so important. You can't just ignore it because you or your family or someone close to you is not dealing with it, but also just it's your responsibility to be educated about this, so that if someone in your family or your loved ones are dealing with this, then you can be of help, and you would know the right way to approach them or how to deal with them. So,
and you would see the signs as well, I think, maybe in this, I was thinking a lot of people talk about how these kind of things affect the victims and their families and their loved ones, which is absolutely true, 100%. But then you also, you don't really talk about what the perpetrator's family goes through as well, because they kind of lose someone close to them as well, in a different way. It's tragic, but in a different way, because they obviously thought their son was a very good, kind-hearted person, and then they do something like this, and then they go through all the societal pressures and everything, and they're probably blaming themselves. There's so much going on there as well, which is also tragic. But it's what
it's
led
not the family's
to that?
fault.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But then also it's what led to that? What could you have maybe done to see the signs or prevented it? But then again, it comes to awareness. Maybe they were not aware of it. Maybe they didn't realize it was in their family or something. It could be anything.
Yeah.
So it's
I think it's high time that people, at least now, people in our society, in our brown culture, just start to believe in mental health, how important it is, and start educating themselves about it, and start taking it more seriously, because it's gonna get worse and worse with the pressures we have right now, and the competitive society that we have nowadays. It's only gonna get worse and worse. So it's really important to be aware of it, to educate yourself, and to keep yourself and your loved ones safe.
And reach out. I think that's really important. And I would like to tell this to our listeners and our viewers, if you are going through something, or if you know someone who's going through something, and you and I, I'm sure Desh, you would agree with this, if they reached out to us, we would be more than happy to lend a listening ear, or even direct you to someone who can help you, even Australia or Sri Lanka. 100%. We would absolutely love to do that for you. So please don't ever feel ashamed or embarrassed, or feel like you have no one to talk to. We would 100% very happily, and I can tell you that right now, very happily be there for you. Even though we don't know you personally, we would be there for you. And it's obviously going to be very confidential. We're not going to say it to anyone or anything, but we are very big advocates on that.
Yeah, exactly. And we might not be able to give you the professional help you need, we're not professional counselors, or we don't have the right education for it, but we can 100% help you in getting those resources available to you. And I think but it's a heartbreaking story this week about that family. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family as well.
Our condolences are to both sides of the family. Yeah, so moving on from that very tragic conversation,
Yeah.
what we really wanted to talk today was, again, like I said, we're so big on mental health and issues in the society. This is like another very interesting topic that I had only heard of when I came to Australia, and it's called the tall poppy syndrome. Have you heard of it before? We discussed this, or
I haven't before you brought it up with me, but then the more I read about it, I'm like, oh, I know what this is.
yeah, you just didn't
But
know the
I just
name.
didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so tall
Tall
poppy
poppy
syndrome, it's really funny, like even saying it.
Mm.
But basically, it's like a very Australian, New Zealand concept, and I'm gonna give you like a little bit of a definition. This is from the website Refinery 29. But basically, what is tall poppy syndrome isn't really a syndrome in like a medical sense. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
just like what people say. So it's a metaphor for someone who stands out in a crowd, and it gets his name from like a field of poppies. Like if you picture a field
Yeah.
of poppies, and there's one poppy that stands above
Stands
the rest,
out.
and then
Yeah.
you kind of need to cut that down to get it down to everyone, like to everyone else's
Yeah.
level. So basically, instead of celebrating someone's achievements, we perceive them as getting too big for their boots and tend to attack, scrutinize, discredit, criticize, or generally just dislike anyone in the public eye who is experiencing any level of success above our own. And this, like I said, it's very like talked about in Australia and New Zealand, but I think we can actually relate it to our culture as well, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's what I thought. Like as soon as I read the definition, I was like, oh, this is so normalized in our culture. This is just
Yeah.
like these are the basics. These are the brown basics.
Yeah, I feel like, so the thing is, people obviously don't like someone who boasts,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they kind of, if someone says something positive about them, or they, got a promotion at work, or they,
Yeah.
have something, and then someone else would be like, roll their eyes and just be like, oh, they got it because of this, or, that, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I have never done that, because I have. I will admit it.
Yeah,
I
100%.
have done it, yes. But I am like now making a very conscious effort of trying to not do that.
Yeah.
And it's like people's stories are different. People's success stories are different.
Exactly.
And like coming from our culture, like some families, I think in our culture, their parents work really hard and then give them their kids like a certain kind of lifestyle, and then those kids kind of sometimes may tend to misuse it, or they may tend to carry it forward. So then we tend to be like, oh, it's only because their parents do this, or their parents gave it to them, that's why they're like this, that kind of thing.
It's not because they worked hard. It's
No,
what
it's
they got
just
from
because their parents gave
Yeah.
them. Yes. So I think it is more prevalent in Australia and New Zealand, like from what I read, what it said was because Australia and New Zealand, like the cultures are very much about like equality. They value hard work.
Yeah.
They value equality. The working class people are valued, people who basically work
they
very
take so
hard.
much pride in it.
Absolutely. So when someone kind of goes above that, then it's just like, oh no, we need to bring them down to this level.
Yeah, it's more almost like a defense mechanism where like it kind of, if somebody outperforms, it's almost like as if they're calling you out on being lazy or not doing enough. They consider
That's
that and they're like, oh
true.
yeah, because, and it's look, it's not anyone's fault, because it's the competitive society, and it's about, and I'm pretty sure it has only improved with social media and all of this as well.
100%.
But people need to, and this is, I'm pretty sure people are gonna get sick of us talking about mental health at some stage. But it's, again, these are the sort of, and like you said, I'm guilty of doing that. But these are the things that I would then now at this age take a moment to think back and say, oh, hold on, I shouldn't be doing that. And what's the reason for me to do that? Is that something that I need to work on? Is that something I'm going to need help? Is there a reason why I think this way?
Yeah.
And but like you said, I think it's because of sometimes maybe thinking that you're not doing enough, or do you need to be
Yeah.
performing well to go into that level,
Yeah.
or is that person working too hard so that, or are you not doing enough?
Yeah.
But it's not exactly true. So everybody has their little joys and little things in their life that, you know, that they're comfortable in, and that's okay. You don't necessarily you don't need to want the same things as the
No.
person next to you.
Yeah. It's like I said,
But yeah.
everyone's pathway is different, you know, like what you
Exactly.
achieve could be so different to what someone else achieves. And
Yeah.
like you can't even compare it. So
Yeah.
you, like, you know, it's very cliche even saying it, but you kind of need to be content in your own little lane, your own pathway.
Yeah.
And it's when you start comparing it yourself to other people and other people's
Exactly.
journeys, that's when it gets really tough. And with social media, like you say, it's honestly, it's really difficult. Like,
yeah.
you have to be in like a mental headspace where you are making conscious decisions to either improve
Yeah.
on, like, change your mindset and
Yeah.
and be like truly content with yourself,
I agree.
to not be able to like look at someone else in like a viewpoint of, you know, or, you know, they only do this because of this. So just be truly
Yeah.
like happy for someone.
Exactly. You
For
don't need to
something they've
justify
achieved.
their accomplishments.
No.
And like, you know, as much as I want to advocate for this, like, comparison is the thief of joy. As much as I would love to, like, I love and I believe in it, but I'm guilty of doing it. I'm
Yeah.
guilty of comparing myself. And I think it's just so deeply rooted in our culture, and maybe it's the way that I was brought up as well. It's just like, you got to be the best. You got to be the best person that you can be. You got to reach your maximum potential, and you got to, and being an oldest child of the family, it's always like, you got to be the best version of yourself so that your younger
Be a good
siblings can look
example.
up to
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And yeah, and I think that's something that the brown culture can relate to as well, because
It's
you know,
really sad though, you know, like talking about siblings and stuff, when you're kind of put in
Yeah.
competition with your own siblings,
yes,
like
yeah,
either consciously or unconsciously. That's really sad, because then you are kind of being in competition or head to head with people that you are meant to be so close to, and you
Yeah.
literally came from the same womb. And then when you are put in competition against them, it's like, if they achieve something, it's just like, oh no, you know, I could have done better. Or, like,
yeah.
it's really sad when that happens.
It is sad.
Yeah,
And I think, like, I remember this very well, but I think, look, my parents' intentions were
exactly.
obviously,
Yeah, of course.
I think their intentions were pure, and they
Yeah.
were in the best interest of us. But I remember, like, obviously, when you have kids, they're not going to be equally talented in
No.
every path. So I remember very clearly, like, so my younger sister, she's into sports, and she was pretty good at sports, but not necessarily in her academics. So
Yeah.
during like prize givings, my parents would like always ask her, so you need to do, you need to do your studies better so you can get, like,
Yeah.
prizes like for your subjects. But every time there was a colors giving, I would get the same treatments, like, oh, maybe you need to like do more sports and like,
Right.
not be so lazy around the house and things like that. But I think obviously their intentions are good, and it's coming from a good place. It's coming
Yeah, they want you
they're
to
wanting
be the
you to
best.
improve
Yeah.
and be the best. But you also have to make sure that you communicate it in a healthy way,
Yeah,
or
definitely.
the delivery must be very healthy, so that, like, I understand it now, but I don't know if I was like, when I was young, I would have understood it in the same way. It's like, oh, I need to do this so that my parents would love me.
Yeah.
It's children. They can
Yeah,
easily misunderstood
Absolutely.
things. But
Yeah, definitely. I think I relate to that as well. Like, again, obviously my parents meant well, you know, they're coming from a very good place, but I was quite good academically, whereas my brothers were good at other things. You know, my older brother was really good at sports, my younger brother was good at like swimming. So they had other things that they were really good at. But then obviously for brown parents, you know, academics is huge, you know. So when
Yeah.
I would like win all these prizes or come first in class or
Yeah.
something, like, it was such a big deal. And then my parents would, you know, tell my brothers, oh, you should like work as hard as she. But like, I'm like, at that point, like you say, at that point, I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm like just better than everyone else.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
like you have like a little feather in your cap because that's all you know as a child. Like, what more do you know,
Yeah.
right? But now growing
Yeah.
up, and I've had this conversation with my parents as well, and they have now come to that. They're
Yeah.
agreeing with me now. They're more open
Yeah.
to accepting that not everyone is gifted the same way.
Exactly, and that's okay.
Even if you're in the same family, even if you are like
Yeah.
born into the same family, same womb, all that, you are still going to be good at different things, and that's why, like,
Exactly.
with us, like, we get compared to like our cousins or like our neighbors or
Oh,
all this like rubbish in the brown community,
yeah.
when it's just you don't understand that not every single person is going to be the same. It
Yeah.
depends on
And-
so many factors.
Yeah, and how boring would the world be if everybody was the same?
True,
Like-
exactly.
I think, yeah. So especially I think that's where like the cultures are a bit, we love our culture. There's so many great things that's been gifted to us because of our culture, but at the same time, the parental bond with their children is a bit of a tricky situation or a
It
tricky
is.
thing in our culture because they're so invested in their children's life
Yeah.
because they want the best for them. They want them to grow up to be the best version of them. But it's also about healthy communication and and bringing them up to be more independent, and
Yeah.
it's all and to making sure that they know it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from those mistakes.
Definitely.
But yeah,
Yeah, I was,
But-
this is like this super random thing that happened today, but I'm on this like community page, like a Sri Lankan community page on Facebook, and this anonymous person had made this post about, like, she's a mom, and I think her daughter is like 5, and she had made this post about how her daughter like is lazy, in her eyes very lazy. She's not interested in sports or any kind of extracurricular activities. She's not interested in dancing.
Yeah.
She just wants to play by herself, and then she apparently came last in a sports meet like race, and the mother was so disappointed because her daughter was not upset about coming last, and she
Okay.
just wanted her daughter to be so upset that next time she's going to do better. And it was such
Yeah.
a, like, obviously for her to have a 5-year-old daughter, she's not that much older than us.
5.
She's not that much older than us,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
oh,
you
the
are-
mom, you mean? Yes.
yeah,
yes,
the mom.
yes.
I'm like, you are
Yeah.
from our generation. How can you think
Yeah.
like this? And she had got roasted in the comments. Honestly, I typed out like this big paragraph. I was like, for your information, she's a child. Let her be a child.
Exactly. She's
And
5.
I know.
Like,
And then I deleted it. I was like, you know what? I can't be bothered. But then
It's not my place,
everyone had roasted her and been like, you need to let her be a child. 5 years old is like, she's
yeah.
been out of the womb for 5 years. She's still a baby.
Give her a break. Like, what? She's just let her enjoy her life while she still can.
Exactly. And like the fact
Yeah.
that she's playing independently and all that, the fact that she's not bothered by coming last in a race, that is amazing. Isn't that so
Yeah.
good that you are not
Because
bothered?
then she's not scared of failure.
Yeah, that you're not
Yeah.
bothered about what other people are doing, and she's just in her
Yeah.
own little world. Like, that is such a
Yeah.
great thing. I think it's a great thing,
Yeah, the mother has tall poppy syndrome, definitely.
Definitely. And like I feel like a lot of brown parents, I'm sure like maybe other parents too, but brown parents especially, they kind of try to live
Yeah.
their life, or like what they wanted when they were younger, they try to live it through their child. So
Their
maybe
children, yeah.
she was either different, or she wasn't given those opportunities, so she wants her child
Yeah.
to be like this certain person. But if you have a child, what I firmly believe is that it is not your place to tell your child
Yeah.
what to be. Like, obviously guiding, definitely, that's different.
Yeah.
But like putting interests, like very specific interests, and telling your kid, no, you need to do this, is just
yes.
you trying to live your life through your child, and
Yeah,
I
I
think-
think I understand that. Yeah, I understand, but I feel like it's something. I think it's something that I would struggle through too with, like, especially because you have all these like, I know my parents had all these expectations from me, and I've been such a, I think this, I also get this from my parents as well. Like, I'm such a people pleaser. Like, I would do anything just to make sure that my mom approves and things like that. And that's not okay. That's not very healthy.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that now because of, you know, my age, and I've seen things around me, and I know why I'm feeling this way. But I think it's just also about that awareness that of thinking like, you're feeling this way, but, and it's normalized in our society, and your parents feel this way, but at the same time you need to be aware that this is not okay. This is not something you want to pass it down.
Exactly.
And that's why I think it's really important that I fix all of these issues before I
absolutely
be responsible for another life.
And I always say, like, you know, if we were to have kids, I would 100% get therapy, like, every week if I have to be like, am I doing this right? You know, am I doing, like, and I actually have a few friends, like very close friends, who are doing that because they're kind of going too much into it. Like, it's like a very fine gray area that you need to kind of be considerate about, because they're kind of like, oh, I just do not want to pass on my trauma or my issues to my child. So they're just like really overthinking every single thing that they do or say. To a point where they just drive themselves crazy. So that's why I think, like, you know, if we were to have children, like, I would just have like a therapist be like, tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right. How can I improve myself and make sure that what I carry, all my baggage, all my skeletons are not passed on to this poor child, you know?
Yeah.
And how can I be the best version of myself for my child and break that cycle of trauma that we again spoke about in a few episodes ago.
But I think talking back, I think that's really important. I think people need to be more aware of, like, everybody wants to have children because they're so adorable, and at the same time it's just about, and I was thinking about this last week as well, and I was just like wanting a dog so badly and I was telling MJ, like, I want a very clingy dog that, you know, who's like always like with me, who always wants to be with me. And then I was thinking, it's because I have this need to be loved and also be someone's whole world. That's what a child is, right? Because you want someone to make you their whole world. And I think that's the wrong reason to have a kid. But look, that's just my opinion. But
at least you're aware of it. You're aware of
that's what I think is important. Like, just to analyze, why do you want to do this?
Self-reflection and exactly.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, because self-reflection is what is needed.
And it's like, not because your like aunties tell you or your neighbors tell you, like, do this and have a child, because, you know, it's
with any decision in your life.
It is a big decision in your life, you know, and people sometimes just have kids for the sake of it, and then they don't know why they did it or how they did it, and all of a sudden you're just responsible for this person who is just like literally absorbing everything from you, looking up to you for everything. And you have
all fun and games until now there's like this
thing,
living,
like,
breathing human being.
Exactly. And you keep it alive and make sure that it's like mentally stable, and make sure that you are mentally stable enough. It's it's huge, I think.
And I think you're never going to be ready for that. And it's because it's not something you've done before, right?
No,
you're never going to be ready for it, and you're never going to do it perfect. You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And no two people would have the same journey. So
that's why I think also, like, we have to kind of be kind to our parents in a way. Like, we briefly spoke about this right before the podcast started. Because obviously that was the first time they did it, and they did it with information that was limited, very limited, and with what they knew and what they saw growing up, and the way they brought us up, or, you know, that was a reflection of
they did the best they can
with the resources they had.
Exactly. They did the very best.
But right now we have like a world of resources and a world of opportunities, and we have no excuse for not wanting to be better, I think.
Yeah.
And like you say,
Yeah.
obviously, like it's your first time. If you're like, being a parent, it's your first time, but then you have the opportunity to be better because you have the
Exactly.
help, that you can get the help you need,
Yeah.
and you can read up. The internet is so vast. There's, or like obviously you have to filter it and take, not everyone's opinion matters. But if you want to make sure that your child doesn't carry the trauma that you have,
Yeah.
then it is your
Yeah.
responsibility to make sure that that ends there.
Yeah, maybe the one thing that that mother should have done is like, okay, my child did this and I'm feeling awful about it. Why do I feel awful
Yeah,
awful about
absolutely.
it? What do I need to fix to not feel awful
Yeah.
about it? And simultaneously push my child or encourage my child to do better. Not because I want her to, because she wants to.
Yeah, yeah.
Or, yeah.
But I feel like after reading those comments, like those comments were beautiful. Like it was really nice to read those. And
Yeah.
like a few people had said like maybe get her tested for like ADD, like attention
Yeah.
deficit disorder, or like all that kind of stuff. Which, I mean, it could be any of those really.
But it's also very normal for a 5-year-old.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like
there's no
especially
concern.
no, especially if you're like the only child. You are going to be like an
Yeah.
independent, but that is great. We encourage our kids to be independent, play independently, learn things on their own. And that is amazing. That is a skill by itself. So the the fact that this mom obviously had like a checklist of things she wanted this child to do, and she's not achieving any of those, and then in her head she's like, why is she not doing this? What's wrong with her? So like I feel like she kind of needed a self-reflection, and I'm very glad she wrote on that page because everyone had completely given her all this information, and I hope and pray that she took something from that and she's going to do her little
it's nice to
self-reflection.
know that a lot of people had opposite, like, or like they thought otherwise, and took it upon them to like correct her, because it's nice to think that majority of the society thinks otherwise. It's good. Yeah.
But again, it's like Columbus society, so that's another
that's another
fish.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Like we've got a long way to go, but at least little positives, right?
Yeah.
Little positives.
Yeah, exactly. Little things. Moving on from the tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
But another interesting that I forgot to tell you about this, but another interesting thing that happened this week, which would be discussed in the last episode also, is that we had the Women's Day celebrations this week at work, which was really cool. It was so nice to see people from all sorts of professional backgrounds come together and talk about, women in the industry. And what about you? Did you have any Women's Day celebrations?
No, we didn't.
Wow, that's shocking from a very...
It is coming from a very like female-dominated industry, and like I said, like female, leadership team. It is quite shocking, but it is a very small school with limited resources.
Yeah.
So I think that would have kind of, because the previous school I was at was kind of in like a posher area, so they used to like celebrate like like everyone's birthdays were celebrated. So this is very different for me coming here.
Yeah.
But like that was not like, they just sent an email saying, wear purple because it's like Women's Day, but I didn't see anyone wearing purple. I wore yellow because I completely forgot about it. But so that was like the extent of Women's Day celebrations. And then when I saw other people celebrating, I was like, oh, okay. Thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was your day like?
Yeah, it was really good. We had we had celebrations on site and also in the corporate offices as well.
Yeah.
And then everyone was talking about it before, I think earlier of the week as well, and I saw some men complaining how they weren't sure if they were invited to this, and we're like, of course you're invited.
I can't roll my eyes further.
But no, it was good. I think the theme of this year is invest in women, But
Right.
it was really nice to see a lot of leaders come together, both male and female, to talk about their experiences in their professional careers and their personal careers, sorry, personal lives.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was really good. And one of the topics they spoke about was, and there was a lot of questions submitted. We had a panel of like guest speakers from the business to talk about as well. And it was really good to talk about their experiences with imposter syndrome. So I saw one of the male leaders said that previously coming from, and he's from a different cultural background. I think he's from a very Southern American
Okay.
background, maybe. But he said growing up in a very traditional environment, he wasn't aware of what imposter syndrome was or how. And I think we discussed this before the podcast as well, how a lot more females are affected by the imposter syndrome than male. So he
75% of females.
Oh right,
That's a
yeah, and
lot.
that's a
Yeah.
big yeah. So, how, and then once he started working, he still wasn't aware of this, and once he became a leader, and with all this leadership training and all this information and resources available to him, he was made aware of this and these sort of statistics, how this is more prevalent in his female colleagues, and he was now given the training to deal with it and how to approach a female team member who's struggling with it, and how you need to constantly reassure that they're doing a good job, and also help them build their confidence so they can outperform.
Yeah.
And I think that's what investing women is, investing
So
in all these.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but before you go
No,
further,
that's all
like for
good.
those of you who don't know imposter syndrome, because I didn't really know about it
Oh
until
yeah.
like very recently. I heard it on
Mm,
like another podcast and I heard about it. But just off Google, I'll give you the definition and then you can
mm.
continue. So basically,
Yeah.
it's the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. So basically, you feel like you don't deserve,
Yeah.
what you've been given, or basically, if it's at work, you don't deserve to be in the position you're in.
Yeah.
So,
You don't deserve the achievements you've
yeah, yeah, yeah,
gotten or something like that.
yes.
But yeah, it was, and yeah, a lot of the, and I think this is quite common in like industries, like very technical industries as well, where women don't feel like they belong here, or or people think that they might not know what they're doing, or things like that. And I see this in a very, because I work with a lot of younger graduates who are a little bit younger than me as well, and I see the difference between male and female
Female.
graduates. Whereas, someone when they're both equally talented, a female graduate or a female colleague of mine tend to think that they're not good enough, or it's not a big deal. Even if they do something, it's not a big deal. Whereas a male colleague of mine would have more confidence
Definitely.
than the other person. And I think I definitely suffer with imposter syndrome sometimes. When I do something or when I achieve something, I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. I try to brush it off, but it's
But
not.
this
It's
kind
just
of
because.
relates back to tall poppy syndrome as well, right?
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
society like
100%.
really values like humbleness and not really talking yourself up, not being proud of your achievements. Like if you are proud, be proud in your head. You don't have to talk about it. You
Yeah.
don't have to tell anyone about it. That's kind of what society tells us.
Exactly.
That's what we've always been told. And then,
Yeah.
that can lead to imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah. And someone next to you might achieve the same thing, but your journeys are not the same. Your starting points are not the same. So don't diminish your achievements.
Yeah.
Just be proud of them. And if like you can be 1% better than what you were yesterday, I think that's worth celebrating. That's an achievement, and
Absolutely. I
that's
think
what
you
we
just need
aim
to
to be.
be in competition with yourself. Like not
Exactly,
really
not with
anyone
anyone
else.
else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just be
Yeah.
better than, like you say, better than yesterday, but for yourself. Like not to obviously not to an extent where you like, go down so mentally, because obviously that like anxiety, things like that also
Mm.
can be a result of that. So not for that, like for the
Yeah.
right reasons. I think that's why, again, going back to mental health, hashtag mental health, like, it's very important to do things for the right reason, and be in competition
Exactly.
with yourself for the right reasons. But,
Yeah.
obviously in your industry, which is a very male dominated industry,
Yeah.
it's completely fair that you would feel that way. And then, like, if men,
Yeah.
or like men, yeah, men in the same position as you kind of feel different to you, like they have like
Exactly.
such a crazy amount of confidence, and you are probably like smarter than them, or like more skilled or experienced than them, but
Yeah.
then you feel like, oh, it's not a big deal, like I'm not that great, so
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's not how it should be. And also, we also spoke about how, a lot of companies, having these initiatives like gender balance and all these things. It's not just about meeting the KPIs. Of course, the KPIs are there to there as a metrics to see
yeah.
how you're progressing. It's a measurement to see how you're improving, but it's not the sole reason.
Yeah.
Gender balance is also about hiring the right women with the right skill set, and also creating growth opportunities, learning opportunities for them to grow within the business, right? So if you just hire women just for the sake
For
of
the
it
sake of
and
it, yeah.
not allow them to grow within the business, then that's not what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
That defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I spoke about that, and I thought that was really insightful, and it feels very wholesome, and it feels very nice to know that these kind of discussions are being, these topics are being discussed within
Yeah.
all these leaders,
Yeah.
and it's, yeah, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good. I think a lot of people had questions about how, or if you don't feel like your manager is supporting you, how would you like deal with that. Would you go to your peers for their feedback? Or yeah, it was really nice to see people who's been in the industry for 20, 30 years giving advice, because, and especially as women, um, it was very insightful, very empowering and inspiring to hear all those things. And yeah, it was I think it was very wholesome, and yeah,
That's
it was a
good.
very fun
I'm glad to hear that was a
day.
very positive day for you, because I saw this post on Instagram. It was actually something that Ryan shared, and then I was like reading it, and I was like, oh wow, that's so true. So this like creator had shared this post saying she generally doesn't celebrate International Women's Day, because she feels like it's something that companies or workplaces do to kind of tick a box.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
most of the time, it's something organized by women, like a morning tea organized by women. And then women have to like clear it up, or like,
Yeah.
do, or like they have to do all the shopping and like the planning, the shopping, the
Is
decorating. And
them
then they
just
have to.
organizing a day for themselves.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah,
then men
it
sit
shouldn't be
back and they
that.
just like take the credit for it, and like we really value and appreciate women. So
Yeah.
that is wrong. That's not what should
Mm.
happen. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that your experience was different to that, and
Yeah.
it was
And mind
awesome.
you, like I have some I think I'm very lucky, but I've had some. I've been exposed to some of great male leaders who are very inclusive and very, I don't know. And you look at them, and then you're like, that's the type of leader you want to be
Yeah.
one day. And I think I consider myself very privileged and lucky to having to being exposed to such leaderships.
Definitely.
But amazing, yeah. But yeah, I think it also depends on your attitude and also what you want to look for. You're obviously gonna have all these different people in your professional career, but it's also like if you're not getting what you need from someone, from your manager, from your leader, I think you should explore other avenues, explore other pathways to meet. Go out of your way even to meet the right people
Yeah.
that
I think
can
I think you should
help you.
speak up as well, because
Yeah,
if you are in the
100%.
position to speak up, because obviously that's you kind of creating a pathway for others who are
Exactly.
working,
Yes.
still working there, or who
Yeah.
will continue to work there, to get good opportunities. And
Yeah.
if you speaking up doesn't really work, then it's in your hands to maybe explore different options
Yeah,
and see what
exactly.
works for you.
Yeah. But no, it was a really good day.
That's good.
And it was really nice to see all over like socials and LinkedIn or whatever to see all these companies celebrating
Yeah.
Women's
was,
Day. But
yeah.
yeah, it was really good. Very wholesome.
Yeah. This has been like a very very good conversation. I feel like we went in circles, which is what we do anyway. I think a
Yeah.
few people had commented again about how we just go in like random directions
Yeah.
and then kind of
But yeah, again, that's the difference between this podcast and maybe some other podcasts. But
Yeah.
that's what it's meant to be, right? Like it's a fun
Exactly.
conversation, not
Exactly.
exactly a structured
No, it's not.
discussion.
It's just literally a conversation between two friends, and
Yeah, sometimes it is a structured discussion.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not.
sometimes it's
but
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, fine. I will expose ourselves and say that we were not very prepared for this. Sorry.
But you're gonna have those days, but
Yeah.
we've had those days where we're not prepared at all,
Yeah.
but we've had the most amazing conversations.
That's
Like,
true.
yeah, but it's one of this. We just hope that you enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. And we really want to do a Q&A session. We're
yeah.
waiting for someone to make that post, and by someone
Exactly.
I mean MJ.
Yeah,
to
the producer,
the producer of our show,
the producer, the manager, the chauffeur, everyone.
the social media manager, everything, to
Yeah.
make this post a Q&A session that
Just
we will
calling him
post.
out. If we are not prepared, it's his fault.
It's his fault. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so we will post that Q&A very soon, so you guys can ask us questions.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, like, here, I know that we're going to get a lot of questions about visa, which we may briefly address, but it is not the niche that we kind of want to focus on, because we don't think we're qualified enough to talk about that,
Yeah.
and right now with all the changes
Professional
happening
advice.
changes happening in the visa world in Australia, it's not really our place to give any advice. So we would really
and I think there's so many
appreciate-
professionals out there that's more suitable for those.
Absolutely. And I think you guys have like a personal friend who is in
Yeah,
that, right? So
yeah.
we are happy to recommend
Yeah.
people like that, but we would like to ask you to avoid asking those kind of questions.
Yeah, shoot us any other questions
Yeah.
about lifestyle
Yeah.
or
yeah. Mental
different
health, we're happy to
professions.
talk about feminism and mental health.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
If you want us
And yeah, and share your personal experiences with us on the topics that we discuss, so we can share it in the podcast as well.
Yeah.
We welcome all your personal experiences, so we can learn from them,
Yeah,
and we
absolutely.
can share it with the audience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a very fun episode. I hope you enjoyed tuning into this episode as well. And yeah, let's meet again next week in the next episode.
Definitely. I hope you guys all have
Thank
a good
you,
week. You too.
Yeah, and
Dash.
thank you, Shanali, for joining with me to talk about
My pleasure.
to
Ramble.
Yeah, exactly.
Ramble
To
about
ramble on
everything.
about another for another episode. But yeah, it's been really fun. We hope to see you next week. Yeah, and we hope you take care of yourself. And yeah, let's see you again next week.
See you. Bye.